Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high-performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. And today I'm bringing you another interview episode. My guest today is business coach, author, speaker, and entrepreneur Fabienne Fredrickson. Fabienne's passion and purpose is being a catalyst for self-employed women to make the greatest impact they can while being handsomely rewarded for it. And I like that. So for the past 20 plus years, she has been and continues to be a business mentor to tens of thousands of female business owners as the founder of boldheart.com. Her business program is based on over 2 decades of her experience and tens of millions of dollars in results for its members. So this sounds amazing, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about how to build those million-dollar businesses without having to sacrifice one's health, relationships, or happiness along the way. So Fabienne, thank you so much for taking the time to be on my show today.
I'm happy to be here with you, Claudia.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to this. So Fabienne, as always, I'd love to start by talking a little bit about your background and journey so that our listeners understand where you're coming from. So please tell us a bit about yourself and about your journey that got you to where you are today.
I'd be happy to. So 21 years ago, I left my corporate job when I was living in New York, and I opened up my very first business, which was a nutrition practice. And I thought, if I could just make the $65K a year being self-employed that I used to make working for someone else, it would be fantastic. Yay! A life of freedom, impact, and just really making a difference while no longer just giving my life to a corporation. And while my clients got good results, I was not making enough money. I was barely making $2,000 a month, and living in Manhattan, it was just nothing. I couldn't, afford my life or my work. So everything was floating on credit cards. And I had a dark night of the soul when I realized, I can't keep going this way. I either have to go back to working for somebody else, which felt like a slow death because now I realized I was unemployable. I just couldn't, or I needed to figure out how to get clients and pay myself more. And I'll take that part of the story and make it short. But basically, I had to figure out a client attraction system for myself. Or else I'd have to, go back. And I did that. I learned as much as I could, and everything that worked, I put it into this imaginary, this works box, and everything else didn't. And within 8 months, I filled my practice to full capacity. What I realized is that full capacity, and I could pay off my bills. And then other people started saying to me, even my clients who had their own businesses, how did you do this? Can you teach me your client attraction system? And I ended up a year later, I stopped doing nutrition and I became a business coach because my system had worked for myself and for them. Fast forward, there were more dark nights of the soul because entrepreneurship is not a straight line. And when I eventually got to 6 figures a year, I was making more than 10K a month. I had a new set of problems. And the problems was that, a combination of I was overworked. I now had a baby. I have 3 children now, but I was married and had a baby. And I would put the baby to bed after dinner and then go back to my computer. And I was working evenings and weekends, and I was never really able to take a vacation without my laptop and without saying, one more email and I will be right there. And that felt unsustainable as well. And I remember my husband, who's always supportive, said to me, "Are you sure you can take on any more new clients? We never see you." And this is when I realized that I needed to shift things all around, because I knew deep inside of me that I was meant for more. And I was seeing other people making, 20K, 50K a month, but I was stuck. And what I realized, so just to give you fast forward, I changed things and I leveraged my business model. I leveraged everything about my business. And eventually I got to $1 million in 2008. So that was 14 years ago. And I've been at multiple million in revenues each year since. So it's been 14 years. And what I realized is what gets you there to 6 figures will never get you to $1 million with your life back, right? There are many people who make $1 million, but who don't take 14 to 16 weeks of vacation per year. And so, now I'm working about 3 to 4 hours a day and taking these sometimes 16 weeks of vacation. And the only reason I share that is to share with our wonderful listeners today that it is possible for you if you understand that what got you here won't get you there. And what I mean by that is you must leverage every aspect of your business. And when you do, it is guaranteed that you get to $1 million. And this is what the subject of my new book that came out a year ago is. It's every step that it takes to create a leveraged business. And the book is called The Leveraged Business.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I love your story. And I love how you pointed out that what gets you to a certain level won't get you to the next level that you want to get to. Because that's where I see a lot of people get stuck. They are trying to do just more and more of the same things. And that's kind of like being stuck on this hamster wheel and just, going faster and faster, but you're never really getting off the hamster wheel. You have to do certain things to get off that hamster wheel, right?
Yes.
Now, I always like to say that entrepreneurship is kind of like the biggest self-development journey you can be on, because it forces you to discover and develop your own strength, to deal with your demons, and to grow as a person. So I'm curious, on your own journey, what has your journey taught you about yourself? What has emerged as maybe your core strength? And also, what struggles did you encounter that maybe took you by surprise?
Oh, there are millions of them. So many dark nights of the soul, so much personal growth and development work. You're absolutely right, Claudia. The person, what I discovered for myself is, and then the tens of thousands of women I've helped get to a new level in their businesses, the person we are now is not the person who will make that $1 million, who will take those 14 weeks of vacations, who will grow her impact. Because if we were that person, we would have those results already. So the work is actually, everyone thinks that the work is about the actions. And of course it is. Right? You don't create new results by not taking action and just sitting in your sofa eating, chocolate. But the initial work always has to go from the inside out. And here's what I mean. What I discovered is your self-image, your beliefs, your identity is what actually drives your actions. Your identity drives behavior. So if you're, and this applies to everything in life, right? It applies to your fitness, to your relationships, etc. So what I teach is that you must become that €1 million, £1 million, $1 million business owner on the inside first. And this is where your mindset is the thing to work on. And the entire book, The Leverage Business, is really an entire book on mindset. What is required how do you approach and think about a team that is different from when you got to your first 10K a month? How do you approach systems? How do you approach your time? How do you approach your business model and the rest of there are 8 activators? How do you shift on the inside? So we examine the beliefs, we examine the fears, we examine the self-image, we examine the rules that we have that are maybe not applicable to get to the next level. And the secret is they're not applicable. So within that, and this is why at Bold Heart, we use a mindset first methodology, which is before I show you how to take a business from 30 clients to 300 clients while having you work less, we have to look at everything on the inside. Because I've realized that if I just say, okay, do this, and it's such a departure from what we're used to, then there's no way it will get done. So all the work has to be done on the inside. And then once that has shifted, and it can shift very, very quickly, that's when the person can say, oh, yes, that makes sense now. I will take the action that I have never taken before. But it requires that you are willing to do the work on the inside. So if anyone here is thinking, why isn't it happening fast enough? Why is she experiencing that and he doing that? Why not me? No, that's available to you too. But as you mentioned, it doesn't happen overnight. It requires that you be willing to look and change, how you're wired to create new results. And it's a magical journey. And I'll tell you this has happened for me and every woman that I've taken to $1 million. I remember the day, for me, it was October 9th, 2008. I got to $1 million in 9 months. What I realized is it's not about the money. That is actually a very anticlimactic day. It's like, oh, just kind of like another day at the office. But the thing that you celebrate, because of course, champagne and, well, we did it. The thing you celebrate is who you became in the process. It's never about the money. Sure, you'll go and you'll buy the watch or the handbag or the car or, whatever. But in the end, no one can take that away from you. Your willingness to do the thing, to not go back to bed when it feels scary, to examine yourself, that is the thing worth celebrating. And no one can ever take that away from you.
I totally agree. That's exactly what I teach my clients as well, that you have to have the mindset first. You have to develop the habits of the person that you want to become. I like to say, you do until you become. So you have to practice being the person who gets the results that you want to achieve, right? So that we're totally agreeing on this. So what are maybe the 1 to 3 most common mindset blocks that you see when working with your clients, and how do you help them overcome those so that they can get out of their own way and finally see the results they want to see?
Well, there are hundreds of them. And, yes, but I'll start with, for me, Claudia, it's always been my answer to my clients when they say, why isn't this happening on whatever topic, whether it is charging more, shifting your business model to work from one to one to one to many, or, visibility. The answer always starts for me with, well, you realize this is a self-worth issue.
Yeah.
So when presented with any of the issues of why something is not getting done or is not happening fast enough, we look at deservedness, deserving, worthiness, whether if it's, I just spoke to somebody last week. She's charging 100 for something, and I want her to charge 1,000 for it. Because she's worthy of it and she could easily get it. She's drastically undercharging. And she wasn't sure if what she offered was valuable. if she as a person was worthy of commanding that much money. And also just really a question of, part of the worthiness piece is, it doesn't matter what other people will think about you. You know, some people may say, oh, how could she charge 1,000 for this? I mean, others charge 100. And the worthiness is also self-acceptance. I am worthy of whatever I want to do, whatever I want to experience in this lifetime, whether or not somebody criticizes me. So the worthiness is also about accepting yourself as is and not judging your value based on what others will think of you. And once you understand that, then you can do whatever you want. You can charge more, you can be more visible on social media. Even if the haters or the internet trolls don't like you, that's their problem, not your problem. So often we start with worthiness and the fact that this is available to you. There's no one who's more worthy of $1 million a year. There's no one, you know, and you don't have to feel guilty about taking so much vacation with your team. This applies to many different things.
Oh, it absolutely does. And I've noticed this as well. As soon as you start to charge more, people fall into two categories. They are the ones like that go like, oh my God, who do you think you are to charge that much money? And others just see the value that you bring to the table and are willing to pay for that. So I recently started to create a new segment for the show, which is a paid feature. And you don't believe how many people, they just want to be on the show to promote their stuff for free. But if you say, okay, you can promote it on the show, but you'll have to pay for it because it's a paid feature. It's not just about the free value that you provide, but it's about, you know, featuring your product or service. But I'll also give you a huge social media package with that. They're like, no way, I'm going to pay for something like that. And there are others that say like, oh, this is amazing. This is so great. It's such a great opportunity because, you know, the value that it brings to them, they see that. But yeah, others, so I've had these two polar opposite reactions, and you have to be able to stand your ground and say, okay, even though I have maybe a lot of people who say I will not pay for that or it's not worth it, you can still say, okay, I have that for those people who are, you know, who like it. And it doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it just because some people don't like it, right?
That's right. And I think everyone has a certain set of rules around what they think business should be, what they think even a woman in business should be. We could talk about that for an hour, you know. And there are times where when I was pressing up against something that didn't seem to be moving, it wasn't the thing that had to change. It was my rule that had to change. Do I have a rule around paying something? Actually, the very first time that I was presented with an opportunity to join a mastermind, this was 15 years ago, my friend joined it, and I said, they want how much per year? You kidding? And she joined the mastermind and I didn't. I had a rule that I could not, maybe I wasn't worthy of investing that much in myself and my business. Maybe I had a rule that was too much to invest. And she went quickly to 50K a month and I didn't. Right. And I started resenting her and saying she changed. All my non-spiritual ego-based judgments came up until I changed my rule and I joined the same mastermind. And that's when very quickly I went to 50K and eventually 100K a month, because all of the things that I didn't know were available from the person who was teaching this. And it was a nanosecond decision to go from no, that's not the way I want to do things, to yes, I'm going to stop doing things the old way and I'm going to do them the new way. And everything changed. And this happens in everything. This happens with team when people are underpay for team members. They have a rule that I can't pay that much, or they have a rule that I don't deserve world-class support. But when you change that rule about, giving maybe an extra 20 euros an hour, you get more world-class support when you surround yourself with people and you have them take assessments instead of, I like you, let me create a position for you. Everything changes. So this applies to every single aspect of your business.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it's just that so often we are not aware of those inner rules that we set for ourselves, right? It's often just based on a feeling, and that's where self-awareness is so important. And I always say that self-awareness is the first step toward changing anything, because as long as you're not aware that you have those rules for yourself, you can't change them. So sometimes it's really just listening or paying attention to your emotions, because they often give you those hints. It's like, why do I start to resent that friend, right? That's when you realize, oh, hang on, I know what's going on. But it takes some practice to develop that self-awareness, right?
I think it's that willingness to just say, I'm a work in progress and I'm just trying to be better in every day. In every way, every day. And just, it's that self-examination, self-awareness that you talk about. I think that when we can remove the ego and think about what's the next right feeling, what's the next right action, what if I questioned the way I did things before and just attempted something new, even if it fails? Even if I make a mistake, and I've made mistakes, as I'm sure you have and everybody here, where you tried something and it didn't work. Maybe the thing didn't work, or maybe we didn't change to match the opportunity. And so it's that self-examination. If we can be okay with it, it changes everything.
It does. And for people who struggle with this, I like to suggest that they see it from a standpoint of being a scientist and running an experiment. It's easier to remove the ego if you treat life in general as an experiment, and you're the experimenter just running the experiment. There's no right or wrong. There's just, I'll try this and see what happens, and I'll try something else, or maybe I have to tweak something. So just removing the constant judgment about everything that we do, and a need to label it as good or bad, or as failure or success. Just see, this is my goal, this is what I'm doing. Am I getting any closer to where I want to go? And then experimenting with that. Now, as a mindset coach, I obviously believe that mindset is super important. And I know a lot of driven high achievers out there who still believe that they can win just by relying on willpower and determination alone. What would you like to say to those entrepreneurs who just hustle 24/7 and believe that they can rest when they are dead?
Oh, I have a lot to say about that. But first, let's talk about the willpower. Mm-hmm. What I realized a long time ago is that willpower doesn't work for long. The reason it doesn't work for long is because it comes from the conscious mind.
Yeah.
The conscious mind chooses. It says, like, I will do this. But if we understand the actions, as we talked about just a few minutes ago, actions come from the subconscious mind, from the self-image and the identity, the beliefs that we have, the expectations that we have that come from that self-image. We realize that we can will ourselves to do something, but if on the subconscious field, we do not believe, expect, or see ourselves as the person who either takes the action or has the result, then we will sabotage. And the more you dive deep into conscious and subconscious mind, the more you realize that the work has to be on the subconscious mind. So even if you think about getting fit or changing the way you eat, a lot of people will go on a diet, and that diet will last either 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 hours, or 3 minutes, based on what you actually believe on a subconscious level about what's possible for you, who you can be. And that is often driven by a lot of fears attached to the outcome. So when you understand that, willpower is only about 5%. You can still use willpower, but this is not where you should put 95% of your effort. 95% of your effort should be on shifting the subconscious mind to believe and expect and see yourself as the result of what you say that you want. So sometimes people say, I want to make $1 million, pounds, or euros. But if inside their beliefs says, well, rich people are greedy and sleazy and inauthentic, and they take up too much space in the world, they've gotten there by being unkind or using other people, the subconscious will always stop. Right? That person will not get to $1 million, or they will get there and then they'll lose it all, because the subconscious is not aligned with their conscious wishes.
Yeah.
And so instead, we work on the beliefs, the fears, the judgments, the rules, and especially the identity, how you see yourself in the theater of your mind. And once that is shifted, the actions happen instantaneously. And you can this is where resistance comes in. You can resist doing the work, and you can, do that in 40 years, or we can do this in 4 minutes.
Right. And one thing that's maybe really important to point out here is that when you focus on willpower, so willpower is something that's very taxing for your brain. So it uses a lot of energy. When you shift that, so do exactly what you just said before, so that we shift the subconscious mind, that's when the action becomes effortless, right?
Yes.
When you shift that, that's how we conserve our energy. Because if we focus on willpower alone, that's where we feel we might be able to get ourselves to do all the things that we need to do, but it feels draining. It feels like you're depleted, you're burning out. That's why it's so important to shift those your identity and those subconscious pieces, so that you don't work against yourself all the time. It doesn't feel like you're swimming upstream all the time. It's just so much more effortless, right?
Yeah. And so this is, exactly based on what you said, in the Leveraged Business book, there are lists of fears around team and lists of beliefs that you may have about systems. And it's about transforming those fears, transforming those beliefs so that they're no longer there. And then the resistance and the sabotage moves out of the way. And just as you're saying, the action becomes effortless. And it's as if it was there, the resistance was never there. But again, it's a willingness to do the work. It doesn't take a long time.
Yeah.
But you need to do it.
You need to do it. Maybe along those same lines. So one common mindset block that I encounter over and over again is that a lot of people believe that in order to grow their business further, they have to work harder and sacrifice. Oftentimes they think they have to sacrifice something that's important to them, be it their health, their relationships, their happiness, something else. But you and I know that this isn't true, right? So I'd love to hear from you again. How is it possible to make twice as much as you're making now, but only work half the time?
Well, this is essentially what's again in the book, where there are 8 leverage activators. Okay. And I want you to imagine that you are in a dark room but you put your hand on the wall and you feel 8 light switches. These activators, the minute you activate them, right, one at a time, you switch on the light switch, the room becomes, there's more clarity. And so in this case, the way to make twice as much working half the time is to first start thinking about the fact that you don't need to do everything.
Right.
You can leverage a team. And I know we all know this intellectually, but there's all this stuff underneath that says, oh, but what if they'll take my information? What if they won't be the perfect extension of my brand? What if they leave? What if, what if I can't afford them? All of that. So the first is to leverage a team and understand what you're uniquely brilliant at, and leverage other people's unique brilliance. And this is not using them. There are people who want to be on your vision and want to help you create something really wonderful in the world. So you bring their brilliance with your brilliance. If you're somebody who likes to start new things, most of us are, but we are not uniquely wired to finish them, then bring on people on your team that are uniquely wired to finish things and not to start new things. So that's one of the things, for example, that I figured this out 15 years ago, and my entire team was a team of wonderful finishers. Because I have lots of ideas, they helped me finish them. So that in itself, that's chapter 1. Just that in itself will get you to make more working less. Obviously systems, if everything is dependent on you to generate new things, let's take marketing, for example, then you're going to be involved in the day-to-day operations of your business. You should not be in the day-to-day operations of your business. It's this false belief that the person who started the business must run the business and create all the systems. When systems are in place, when everything is documented, when your business becomes not you, but a process-driven company, that the team is responsible for all the day-to-day operations, that frees up your time. And that's another thing. So when you leverage your team, leverage your systems, and now you can leverage your time to work on exponential growth activities as opposed to all the other things. And that can be to switch your business model. So you leverage your business model to no longer work one-to-one, but one-to-many. What does that mean? Use your intellectual property and leverage that so that you can, either teach somebody on your team to deliver the work for you or with you, which means there are more clients or customers to help. Maybe it's that you move to a group model instead of a one-to-one model. Maybe it's a franchise. Maybe it's a SaaS. Maybe it's automation, trainings. There really are countless permutations of how you can do your work in the world one-to-many. And just even in those 4 ways, that is how you can make twice as much working half the time. And it really changes everything. It's a good thing because you're actually helping so many more people, but you're really honoring yourself as well. And this, I must do the work and they only want me and they won't pay for that. They only will pay for me to hold their hand, to do the work for them. Those are outdated ways of thinking. If I may, and I had these beliefs too in the beginning, that's very small thinking. The whole idea here, as we're having this discussion, is for you to open up your thinking to how can the client get exceptional results without me being there for every living second of their experience.
Those are great tips. Thank you so much for sharing. Now I'm curious, what does work-life balance look like for you? And maybe you can tell us a little bit about the systems that you have put into place to make sure that you always have enough time and energy to do all the things that are important to you.
I think there's several answers to your question. The first is to realize that as women business owners, we are wired differently than men. And if we don't want to use gender, then let's talk about energy. When for me, when I realized that feminine energy is very different than masculine energy, everything shifted. So, but let's start with masculine energy. Masculine energy is an energy of action, doing, competition, accumulation, solo energy, like, oh, I will make this work by myself, and it's where doing is rewarded. The feminine energy, conversely, is an energy of being. Instead of pushing, it's an energy of pulling, of attraction, of resting, of intuition, of presence. The masculine energy is what has been rewarded in business for, forever. Thousands of years, forever. And so we high achieving women who believe that there's something more for ourselves, we have adopted this masculine energy because that's what's rewarded by society. If we are seen resting, people will call us lazy. But resting is just as much a part of your energy management and your results management than doing, right? So we've been talking about this today. You could be in action, you could be in willpower, but if you rested and did the work, it's like sharpening the saw, taking 7 hours to sharpen a saw and 1 hour to cut the tree down. So one of the things that I do, and I share happily with you, is that there are times in your day that I invite you to block out just for feminine energy. Okay. You could spend the next 9 hours working, and you would do it. But at the end of the day, you would be depleted and maybe even resentful. If we can consciously shape our day so that there's a block for feminine energy, a block for masculine energy, a block for feminine, a block for masculine, and so on, then everything changes. If you look at nature, everything that works in nature is a combination of masculine and feminine energy. If you want to look at it as yin and yang, that's it. So imagine today is a beautiful day, absolutely gorgeous. But if there was no night and there was sun all the time, we wouldn't grow flowers, trees, vegetables, fruits, because there would be too much sun. Conversely, the feminine energy of darkness, right, resting, if there was only moonlight and no sun for months at a time, everything would stop growing as well. And so when you apply that to your business, when you apply that to how you show up in the world, and you honor nature within you, your body, your business, and you go in cycles, because everything in life is cyclical. If you follow the cycles of nature in your own business, in how you show up, you can produce well because you've rested well. You can take the right actions because you've taken the time to connect with your intuition, your divine guidance, whatever it is for you, right? So there's times for thinking and feeling and times for doing, right? Not so much of action. There's also time for strategy, rejuvenation, intuition, planning without the actual action. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely. And I love the idea of going through those cycles because, as you said, a lot of people just focus on getting through their never-ending to-do lists. And that never leaves them time to take good care of themselves. And that's where a lot of things just go wrong and people burn out. And that is so sad to see. So I know for myself, I've been there, and I know how hard it can be when you've grown up in a society like ours, where people just achievement is rewarded, and you learn to be on 24/7. You learn that it's a good thing to work more than the other people in the lab or something like that, because that's what gets rewarded. So when you start to remove yourself from that game, you initially feel guilty. You feel guilty for resting, for taking time off. And that is something that a lot of people struggle with. So maybe as a multi-7-figure entrepreneur and a mom of 3, can you share some of your secrets for growing a successful business without feeling guilty for splitting your time and energy between your kids and your business?
Yes, absolutely. So I want to go to how we are raised, especially as women in the world. We are raised to believe that it is valuable and worthy for us to put the needs of others first.
Yeah.
And that if we say no to a request, we are being not nice, or even worse. I don't want to use the words that are typically called, like, oh my God, she's such a insert the word. And that is something that stops us as women, because I talk about this in the Leverage Your Time chapter, because people then begin to take advantage of us. And we have believed that when somebody asks us something, we are not nice if we don't say yes. But what if the thing that's being asked of us isn't going to take us to either the business that we want or the life that we want, our fulfillment and satisfaction and happiness? What if the thing being asked is not for our own benefit and our own good, just as much as the person asking? This is where we go back to self-worth and say, do I really want to do that thing? Do I really need to pick up the phone at 10 p.m. at night because the client is calling, or the SMS during the weekend? And when we say, my preferences and my wishes are just as important as theirs, and that's when we get to set boundaries. Now, at first, people don't really, if you have been somebody who has said yes to everything, when you begin to raise your standards and set boundaries, some people will have a very hard time with this. If you have children, you know it when it's time to take away the security blanket or tell them, no, actually, no more television. It's time to brush your teeth and go to bed. When they have not been used to this, and I'm not suggesting that our clients are like children, but this is just an example, they will be upset at first. But if you can just stay true to your standards and your boundaries, either, as you said, the people will fall off or, be upset, or they'll say, this is brilliant, and they'll conform. So the whole idea is to really look at, do I want to do this? Or is my business model, the way I've set it up, is this good for me? And if it isn't, then you raise your standards, you get clear on what is acceptable and no longer acceptable, and you educate the people around you. And not everybody will be happy, but I'll tell you this. When you say yes to everything, say yes to every email, every client request, even unpaid, and when you say yes to all that, you're saying no to your kids, okay? Or you're not fully with your kids. Well, I know moms who worked with us who would put like a little water in the bathtub, put the kids in the bathtub and sit on the toilet with the lid down with their laptops, but they're missing out on their kids' lives. And I also believe that, because I have 3 children and I got the business to $1 million while I was pregnant with my 3rd. I also know that the children need boundaries too. Your personal life needs boundaries. So if you are, it's a separation, but when you're with your kids, you're with your kids and your spouse. And when you're at work, you're at work. And it's setting boundaries both ways. It's about getting help in both ways. It's about creating systems in both ways. I have always, made time to be with them. I make dinner and lunch every day, even though I could afford to. But I believe in that high quality of life. So really, again, it starts with you. What is in your life and your business that is not acceptable? And what is it that you tolerate, and what will you do to change it?
So important. Having those boundaries and being present within those boundaries for either your business or your family. Right.
Exactly.
So last but not least, where can our listeners find you online if they would like to connect with you or learn more about you?
Oh, thank you, Claudia. Well, a great place to start is boldheart.com. On the website, you can get a copy of the Leveraged Business Book, how you can go from overwhelmed at 6 figures to 7 figures with your life back. There is a video series and everything that's attached with that. And I would say, if there's somebody here who wants to really be inspired, go to the Member Success Stories page and just watch video after video after video of women going from overwhelmed, not making a lot of money, to making their first 10K month, their first 50K day, their first 100,000 launch. That will start to work on your identity. If it's possible for somebody else, it's possible for you. And then, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn at, Fabienne or Fabienne Fredrickson, Fabienne Fred. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook and all the places.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Perfect. I'll make sure to put all the links in the show notes. So thank you so much, Fabienne, for sharing your tips and your wisdom with us today. I really appreciate it. And it was a pleasure talking with you.
Nice to talk to you too, Claudia.
Take care and talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.